Hello, welcome. This video is going to cover a couple of topics. It's going to cover how to make histograms on your calculator, how to make histograms on the computer, and also how to make box plots on your calculator. If you want to skip to histograms on the computer, you can click this link right here. If you want to look at box plots, you can click on this link right here. If you want to look at histograms on the calculator, that's what we're going to start with. The data that we're using here is uploaded into Google Spreadsheet. The link is in the doobly-doo down below. If you want to go ahead and enter that data, that's fine. If not, let's continue. So you want to start by entering in your data. I've entered my data into list 1. This is a set of simulated ACT scores. They're basically just randomly chosen. There's 30 of them here. And we want to get a graph of this. We want to get a display of this. So the first thing that we need to do here is we need to go to our y== screen. If we have equations in here, we either need to turn those off or clear them out. We also need to make sure that all three of our plots are turned off. The way that we do that is we press up, press enter to toggle whether each plot is on or off. And then you can scroll left and right for that. Once you've made sure of that, let's go into our stat plot screen by pressing second on the y= button. And let's just go into plot 1 here. Now there's a lot of different types of stat plots here. First off, we want to turn it on and then scroll down. And then we have a couple of different plots that we can look at. The first one is a scatter plot. Second one is a line plot. This third one is a histogram, so we need to go right and press select for that histogram. Okay, our X list, that's the list that our data's in. It's in list 1, so if it's not list 1, press second and then the number 1 to get list 1. But mine's already list 1. If you have a list in frequency, we don't have a frequency list here, so our frequency is just going to be the number 1. Each data point in the set occurs exactly once because we don't have a frequency list. Once that's set up, go ahead and press second quit. And if we graph this right away, it doesn't look like anything's happened at all. The reason for that is that we don't have a good view on it. So press zoom right in the middle of this top row, and you can either scroll down to the 9th entry, which is zoom stat, or you can press that, just the number 9, and it'll automatically zoom for you. It's always a good idea with histograms to change the width of these. Basically what this graph is telling us is that we can actually trace and look at the the height of this. So it's saying that between 17 and 19 and 2/3, there were 7 ACT scores. And then in the next bit, between 19 and 2/3 and 22 and 1/3, we have 5 observations. Now, this bin size doesn't really make any sense because all of our numbers are integers here. So to change the bin size, to change the width of these rectangles, all we have to do is press Window, and the bin size is defined to be the X scale. So if we change that to 2 and just regraph that, don't resume stat, you can see that our rectangles here are a little bit thinner than they were before. It's always really important to make sure that you play with this bin size, because if we set it to be too big, well, first off, one of our bars is going off the graph there, so we can just increase our maximum X to make sure that we see that. But if our bars are too big, then we don't see a pattern. You know, if we set our X scale to be 50, we just have one big box, which you can't see right now because our Y max is not big enough. Let's set it as 40. See how we have just the one big bar. crossing the entire area. Let's just resume stat, set our bounds again. Let's set our X scale to be 3. Let's see how that works. That looks pretty good. With this display method, I think 2 might be the best. We can see we have, there's our peak, and then it looks like we have a little bit, a couple outliers up here. So in this case, I think that I like the way that 2 is displayed, and that's, it's a little bit of personal preference, and it depends on what you want to show with these data. But you should aim between, say, certainly more than 4 bars, but not so many that any pattern completely dissolves. Let's talk about box plots. So if you go back to your stat plot and go in and edit that plot, it's the same list. In order to get to your box plots, which are these 2 icons here, you need to scroll right. If you scroll down, you'll get back to choosing what list you're looking at. So scroll to the right, 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 and these 2 are both box plots. The difference between the 2 box plots is that this one on the left here, this one beyond, I think it's 1.5 inner quartile ranges above the 3rd quartile or below the 1st quartile, it labels those as outliers. So, whoops, let's just go back in there, back to where we were. I normally like to choose this first option, but it doesn't really matter either way. Now we can just go zoom and 9 again to reset this our zoom level, and we can see the minimum, the 1st quartile, the median, the 3rd quartile, and the maximum. So there's the box plot. Really easy to create on the calculator, really quite useful. We can see that there's our bottom half of the data is much more together than the top half. Yeah, it's also very good for comparing. Part 2 will start momentarily. Hello, here's part 2 of our video on how to do histograms. This will demonstrate how to do histograms in Google Spreadsheets. So I already have our ACT scores entered in here. These are the same ones that we used on the calculator. So let's go ahead and just highlight all of those. We want to create a chart, so we can insert a chart like that, and you can see that it's already recognized that we want to do a histogram here. If this histogram doesn't automatically pop up, we can get to it under the Charts tab. It's a column, graph, and there's an option for histogram down at the bottom here. Let's customize this here. I don't like putting labels or titles because I usually do a label here at the bottom. I'll call it, figure 1.1 or whatever. We also don't need a legend, so let's get rid of that. And then we can omit item dividers if you don't like the look of each individual thing stacked up. We can just get rid of those, and then it just gives us the height of the bar. Here's our bin size that we can change, and as always we should play around with this and see if we actually have a good representation of this distribution. So right now the bin size is 3. Let's try and make it a little bit bigger. Doesn't really look too good. So let's go back down to 2. And this doesn't, I don't think this gives us a good picture. I think that 3 gives us the best picture that we have. Now just briefly I'll show you here. If we choose 1 for our bin size, we get something that's almost nonsensical. It's a uniform distribution, more or less, and that will typically happen when you set your bucket size to be 1 or a very small number. In this case, we have integers, so the smallest possible bucket size is 1. Same thing will happen if we get a very large bucket size, like 10. We get the appearance of a pattern which isn't really there, or we just get 1 bar. So let's set our bucket size to be 3. That looked the best. And then we can label our horizontal and vertical axes. Horizontal is just going to be ACT score. Vertical is just frequency. And then, of course, if we want to, we can change the color to, whatever we want. Maybe we want this purple. Insert it, and there is your histogram. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you later.